What's up, guys? So I'm in southern Thailand right now, and it's my last night in the Koh Phi Phi Islands. And I really hope you can hear me because there's a full-on beach party going on about 100 feet away from this hotel room. But I decided to check into a resort actually tonight simply because I needed a break from the crazy hostel life here in southern Thailand. And I will definitely get more into why I think anyone needs a break after, living in a hostel for however many days or weeks, which kind of leads into the topic I wanted to talk about today, which is going to be how I go about choosing the best hostel for myself in the new city that I'm in. So if you don't know already, hostels are a great way to save money while traveling, especially for budget travelers such as backpackers. Usually in places like South America, Southeast Asia, and Europe, all have a ton of hostels in major cities, and there are tons and tons and tons of hostels to choose from, and this can be kind of overwhelming when you're going to a new city and you are trying to find the best hostel for yourself. And I wanted to go over the three major categories that I kind of look for when I am trying to book my next hostel. So before I actually tell you the three categories or three tiers that I rank these hostels by, I want to tell you first off how I find these hostels, which is going to be hostelworld.com and booking.com. Both these platforms are fantastic for finding and sifting through all the different options you have for accommodation. So Hostelworld obviously is better for finding hostels, and booking.com is pretty good at finding everything, but booking.com also has more hotel options. So definitely download the Hostelworld app and the booking.com app, and I will get into the three categories that I use in order to find my hostel. So the first tier, and debatably the most important tier, is location. So location is pretty important because you're only going to be in that city for, probably a short period of time if you're backpacking, and you basically want to be close to everything that you want to see. So if you look ahead of time and see exactly what you want to see in that city, or know what you want to see in that city, then you'll have a good idea about where you want to stay. Rule of thumb is pretty much stay as close to the center as possible, especially if it's a major city and there are lots of hostels to choose from. You don't want to be like on the outskirts and have to travel, by public transit to get, to everywhere you want to be. It's going to cost you more money and time, and it's not worth it if you're backpacking. So look at the field of view, the maps section on booking.com or Hostelworld, and basically that will just kind of narrow your field of view or your field of search to the hostels or accommodation that's closest to either the center of the city or to the places that you want to check out in that city. Okay, so after looking at the location of the hostels or hotel I want to stay in, I will usually look at the price. So being a backpacker, I am on a budget, so looking at pricing is pretty important. And using Hostelworld or booking.com, you can actually set the price that you want to pay per night. So you can set it to say, $8 to $20. And if it's higher or lower than that, then it will not show up in your search bar. So using the pricing tool is pretty important, especially if you want to find a hostel within your budget. So my one tip about pricing is I always say pay for good value, and that means if it's a little bit more expensive, say like $4 or $5 more expensive, and you're like, no, I'm just gonna stay in the cheaper hostel that's like around the corner. But sometimes you have to look into the finer details of that hostel because maybe they have, laundry service, or maybe they have breakfast included, which in the end of the day will also save you a little bit of money and will make it pretty much the same price as that other cheaper hostel, which may not be as nice as the one that you're looking at. Okay, so after both looking at the location and the pricing of the accommodations in the city, third thing I usually look at are the reviews. So if you've made it through step 1 and 2, you probably will have narrowed it down to your top 2 or 3 hostels or accommodation in that city. So looking at like the latest reviews from backpackers who've recently stayed there is pretty important because hostels tend to change hands with like management and staff a lot. And by looking at, the last few weeks that people have been staying there for, you can get a good idea of like the state that hostel is currently in, and that will help you decide whether you want to go and pay to stay at that hostel. I will also always sift through the most recent comments to see if there's any like big red flags. One big red flag for me is bed bugs. Like if you see bed bugs anywhere in the reviews or comments, I'm pretty much out. Like there's just not it's not worth staying in a hostel that has had bed bugs recently. It's a pain in the ass to get rid of that, and also it's like ease of mind, you know? Like, you don't want to be staying in a place that's recently had bed bugs or has been accused of having bed bugs when there's so many other options out there to choose from. So if I see that, unfortunately, red flag, then I'm out. And another thing I just want to add is that a lot of times I will choose a hostel based on the vibe I'm feeling when I'm in that city, depending on if I want to, you know, say go out and have a couple drinks, or if I want to just chill by the beach, or if I want to just like do my own thing. I will tend to book a hostel with that mindset. Like, I won't book a party hostel if I just want to like sleep all week, and I won't book, you know, chilled out, relaxed hostel if I want to go and meet people. So depending on the state of mind that I'm in during that part of the trip, that will oftentimes depict what I'm looking for in a hostel as well. So I'll usually like spend a decent amount of time trying to find a good hostel for myself, because in my opinion, I think hostels really will make or break that portion of your trip, depending on where you're going. I've stayed in some places where honestly it was not my favorite, but ended up being my favorite because the hostel was so much fun, or because it was so nice and I met so many cool people there, that it ended up being a highlight for me just because of the accommodation. By picking a good hostel, you are already giving yourself the best chance to have a really, really good trip. I will say as well that you can always just show up and, you know, find a hostel once you arrive. I sometimes tend to do that too. It can be more spontaneous and more fun, especially if you meet people on the way to the hostel. It can be annoying when you make friends, say on a boat or a bus, and all of a sudden they're not staying in the same hostel as you. So a lot of times, especially if you're a solo traveler, booking a one bed in like a 12-person dorm room is not too difficult and will not always be all booked up. So I sometimes will just leave it to, spontaneity last minute. So yeah, those are pretty much the 3 things that I will always look at before I book a hostel in advance. I really hope you guys like these new series of videos I'm releasing. I have a lot more I want to share with you guys, different tips and tricks I've learned. Give me a like if you enjoy watching this, subscribe if you already haven't, and I will catch you next time.